Zoroastrianism, Symbols and Values, Jacques, Duchesne, Guillemin. Picking back up on page 21, Multifariousness of the Symbols. The Kushir girdle is the obligatory emblem of every Mazdian who ties and unties it several times a day. A multiple symbolism is attached to it, as will be seen in the next chapter. In the universe, its counterpart is the Milky Way. On the other hand, the girdle, which Ahura Mazda offered to Haoma, the sacred liquor, symbolizes the good Mazdian religion. And this symbolism is expressed in the Yasna 9 of the Avesta. By direct opposition to thee, Haoma, Ahura Mazda brought a girdle to the Mazdian good religion. The same identification is found in Pahlavi text of Zastram 6, 4-6, T.R. Zahner Zervan, page 163. The religion was manifested in Spandermot at the time when Thrashab withheld the waters from Iran and Spandermot brought them back. She was arrayed in bright robe, which shone forth in all directions for a hoster's length, that is, about 2 parasangs, and she was girt with golden girdle, which was the religion of the Mazdi-Yaznians. It would be impossible to state the symbolic relationship between two terms more strongly. Ormaz's throne represents the god himself in the vision, described in Datistan-e-Denek. 18th question of souls, of the good and wicked. Here is how this relationship is expressed. The souls of the righteous and wicked see in the spiritual places the throne, which they deem a sign of Ormazd. Elsewhere, the symbolic interpretation is offered as explanation of a dream. For instance, in the narrative of Zoroaster's visions at the beginning of the Bahumanyazm, or Bahmanyasht, Ormazd showed the wisdom of all knowledge unto Zarathustra. Through it, he saw the trunk of the tree, on which there were 4 branches, 1 gold, 1 silver, 1 steel, and 1 mixed with iron. When he arose from sleep, he, Zarathustra, spoke, Lord of spiritual and material existences. It seems that I saw the trunk of a tree on which there were 4 branches. He, Ormazd, spoke to Shvedaman Zarathustra. The trunk of a tree which thou sawest in material existence, which I, Ormazd, created. The 4 branches are the 4 periods which will come. That of gold is, and when I and thou will hold the conference, King Pishtas shall accept the religion, the figures of Dev shall totter, and they will remain from publicity into distant and concealed movements. That of silver is reign of Atarkshar, the Kai, and that of steel in the reign of Khosrau, son of Kavat, of a mortal soul, and that of mixed iron is the evil sovereignty of Devs, having disheveled hair, the seed of Heshma, when thy 10th century will be at the end, O Shvedaman Zarathustra. Then the prophet has another dream, in the course of which he sees the tree with 7 branches, the meaning of which is explained as before. In the second vision, the old myth of the ages of the world, also known as Hesiod, and in India, has undergone a change, which seems attributable to the influence of astrological beliefs. The number 7 corresponding to that of the planets, such a pattern seems at the origin of the 7-door ladder mentioned by Celsus in a passage quoted by his great adversary Origenin. One finds in the doctrine of the Persians and in the cult of Mithras a symbol of the 2 revolutions of the sky, that of the fixed stars and that of the planets, and of the passage of the souls through the ladder. This symbol consists in this: a ladder with 7 doors, and above it An eighth one, the first door, is of lead and consecrated to Saturn, the softest metal, to the slowest planet. The second one, of brass, to Venus, and so on, up to the sun, is an order which is exactly the opposite of that of the days and the week. Why this order? Why does the soul arising from Earth not cross the planetary circles in order of their increasing distance? Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. In order to solve this difficulty, one has to surmise with Cumont. This latter was not primarily what Celsus tells us it was, but a figuration of the ages of mankind in the world comparable to that in the second vision of Vogelmann-Yazan. But why the opposite order of the days of the week? Because beginning with the age of Saturn, the golden age of mankind, one wished to end with that of the sun, i.e., of the Savior, as taught in the oracle of Hystaspas, and to put the age of the worst evils, that of the moon, in the last place but one. In order to do that, it was sufficient to take the week backwards. After the reign of the sun, a new golden age, to which Virgil alludes, there came as the last age out of eternal heaven of infinite time, corresponding to the fixed stars, and represented by the eighth door above Celsus. Ladder and picture of this ladder has been found in a mosaic in one of the Mithraea at Ostia. In one case, the symbol and its significance are presented dramatically in the Karamak-e Atarakshar-e Papakan, which tells of the seizure of the power of Artaxerxes, the founder of the Sassanid dynasty. Artaxerxes was a page at the court of Artaban and Arsacid emperor. One night, thanks to the complicity of a maidservant who loved him, he succeeded in running away with her on horseback in order to escape the king's jealousy. On the day after, the king and the escort set out to pursue them and questioned peasants along the way. The first answer they got is that the two people on horseback have been seen followed closely by a ram. Further on, they were told that the two people on horse were seen with a ram riding behind. The king questioned the magi and the astrologers and the escort, who explained to him the game was up. This ram represented the royal dynasty. If it had cut up with the fugitives, it meant that Artaxerxes was destined to reign. This royal destiny of Kavarna and Pavlovani Kavar is habitually represented another way by a halo or glory, and in fact the Aramaic ideogram which designates it in the Pahlavi text is the word Gada, glory, brightness. We shall find representations of it in coins, but apart from all figuration or concrete representation, the fact itself of conceiving a designated fortune, royal or otherwise, depends on the capacity for symbolizing. The heroes of yore were supposed to have handed down to each other not only the sacred word Vaksh, but also the Kavar, a fortune or dignity. This was not a royal privilege, or Masya or Mashane. The first human couple had theirs, and Zarathustra had his. It is said of the Mashya and the Mashane in the Bundahishan 14.2 that when there were still united merged in rhubarb stem, their kavar hovered above them, and that is the kavar of men. It is therefore the human a principle which to give them to the human appearance which they still lacked. A little further of kavar is glossed by kaveshkiri, own function, than by ruvan, soul. Certain notions were more or less personified. One recalls at the entities so characteristics of Zoroastria's system, although most of them were probably anterior to him, prior to him. Also, at the least as early as the Indo-Iranian period, Iran was familiar with the god whose personified notion Mitra, whose name means contract, and it is probably also knew of the divination of time, Zervan. We shall study the entities Mitra and Zervan in that order.